After a beautifully blue Saturday ended in victory at Morecambe, time for Blue Monday. Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast covering all things Ipswich Town since 2015. And my name is Mikey Pensy-Smith, and joining me for this show over in North Wales is Seb Brown. Hello, Seb.
Hello, mate. Evening.
And down in, is it Jaywick or Clacton? We've got Craig Fimbo.
Hello, mate. Good. Yes, very good.
I
can see the smouldering smoke from the tyres from Jaywick. That's as close as I can get.
Yeah, and good evening to all of our viewers and listeners over in Jaywick tonight and anywhere else. We've got a few people in the comments already, gents. So should we start saying hello to our regulars? And hopefully we'll have a couple of new viewers tonight as well. So we've got FPL Tractor, ever present, isn't he? Dan Connors. Charlie D says, hopefully my last trip to Morecambe. Seb, you were at Morecambe yesterday. Are you hoping it's your last trip? Or would you be going back for a holiday, perhaps?
No, definitely not. No, I echo those thoughts. I was there on a cold day in, was it February time we were there, Craig? January, February time at the back end of last season. Yesterday was a nicer weather day, but yeah, done that one now. No need to go back, I feel.
Mullet's here. Watch your lads. Was Mullet in fancy dress yesterday, Seb?
That's how he rolls. That's how Northern away days are. That's how he rolls. Handlebar moustache, flat cap, and long trench coat.
Go.
He's nothing if not textbook.
We've got Tony Rand. Hi, everyone. Robert Anderson. Evening to all. Chris Rand. Evening, everyone. Watching this on the exercise bike tonight. Blimey. Well, we're all getting a sweat on here, aren't we? Especially Michael Warner. He's probably 30 degrees in Brisbane at the moment, isn't it? Good morning. Right, not sure what that's about, but yeah, let's get into the seriousness of the podcast. And it was another good weekend for Ipswich Town, the team, but almost it felt immediately after the final whistle, Craig, there was some quite sad news coming out of the club, wasn't there? Former Ipswich manager John Duncan sadly passed away on Saturday. He was our manager in difficult times in the late 80s, wasn't he, Craig? But someone that always handled himself really well.
Yeah, he was. He was probably, maybe one of our managers that sort of goes under the radar a little bit. He took over from Bobby Ferguson and John Lowell took over from him. So he sort of just slips under the radar a little bit. And, you know, as you say, he sort of didn't get dealt the best hand in the world because by the time he'd taken over, the players definitely had all left from, you know, the Robson era. Now they started to disappear during Bobby Ferguson's era, and Terry Butcher was the last one to leave, I think, and switch the lights out in the summer of '86, and John Duncan joined the summer after that. And I didn't really appreciate it at the time, but he, you know, you two weren't, but I was young at the time, and he was in his 30s at the time, I think 38, 39 when he joined us, and you always think of him as an older gent, like a safe pair of hands, which he actually turned out to be. You know, his was the era of John Hallworth, and Yallop was there, Graham Harvey, Nigel Gleghorn. These aren't, you know, names that'll be, well, Yallop maybe, but the others aren't going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame anytime soon. But he, you know, so he's working on a bit of a budget. He had to sell Dalian Atkinson, who come to the fore underneath him. He had to sell him. Ian Atkins was his captain. I think we sold him to Birmingham. But it was that Humes, Gleghorn, Mark Brennan, David Lowe he brought in. It was that sort of era. So he had 3 seasons. We finished probably just outside the playoffs in each of those 3 seasons. But I think what he did do was he laid some pretty good foundations for that promotion team from the year after. So if you think that towards, you know, that final season of John Duncan, we had Craig Forrest would have been in goal, Simon Milton would have been playing, Stockwell sort of secured his position underneath John Duncan, Zondervan was there throughout his reign. He signed David Linnigan, he signed former Nappy salesman Neil Thompson. So he put the nucleus of that team, which actually went on 2 years later to gain promotion. And as I say, there was very, very little money sloshing around at that particular time, and we were selling to buy players. Obviously, probably most notable purchase was Sergei Baltacha. He was in charge when we went over there and lured Sergei over a Lada or a Skoda, whatever it was at the time, and he also signed Ian Redford, got down from Scotland. That was a big signing at the time. This was the era where we were signing 1 or 2 players a year, not 1 or 2 players every couple of days. So people in the chat can probably mention a few names. David Lowe was bought. I think Brian Gale. It was that, sort of that era. So 3 seasons in charge. Probably finished 8th, 7th, 9th, 7th, 8th, 9th in those 3 seasons. I think his win percentage stands up pretty solidly.
We've got a comment here from Norman Greenwald, says his win percentage is only behind McKenna and Burley in the modern era. That's pretty impressive stuff, isn't it? Considering the players that he was having taken off him.
That's it, and the restrictions that he was working under. Because I say it was a real lull that he was a lot of working under at the time. And he came from Chesterfield and eventually went back to Chesterfield, didn't he? He had that famous semi-final, wasn't it, at Old Trafford? Borough.
Sean Dyche, I think, was playing.
He was captain, wasn't he? Yeah, I think he was captain of their team. So he almost got them to the final of that. But I think he was just, one of those just lovely guys, real football guy. And it's just terribly, terribly sad news.
Indeed, yeah. And there's a few comments here. Charlie D says, first manager I remember. I think EJ Norris said the same. It probably wasn't far off for you either, was it, Craig?
Yeah, certainly. Yes, I was probably. That was certainly when I was probably about 12. So that sort of just starting senior school. That just starting to really get into your football. And so it was the era of Dalian Atkinson and Jason and Mark Brennan. Those were like the first. David Lowe. That was sort of the first era of players I really started to watch in earnest.
Yeah, and Jules says R.I.P. John, and thinking of all the family. And I think we can all go along with that one. Thoughts are with John Duncan's family. ITFC women were in action today at Oxford. They got a really good result, actually. 1-1. Oxford, top of the league, I believe, Seb. So a really pleasing result.
A really good point, wasn't it? Yeah, went behind. Lacey Leggett opened the scoring for Oxford and Anna Gray equalised. They were top of the league. They were unbeaten, so it's a tough place to go. Obviously, they doubled us last year, didn't they? And snuck into 3rd place, was it, in the final table? So a really, really good, solid point built on the foundations after a slow start. And we're only 5 points off top now. We've got a game in hand as well. So suddenly it's gone from being, a pretty slow start to all looking pretty positive again. So a great point away from home.
Yeah, very much up and running now. Ipswich men's team more than up and running, Craig. And it was, as we mentioned, we were up in Morecambe on Saturday, and there was 5 changes. Were you a little bit surprised by how many changes McKenna went with, or is this just sort of par for the course now when we play 2-3 games in a week?
Yeah, well, I was surprised, to be fair. It's half your outfield players being switched around, and Seb was there, but it did actually look like half our outfield players had been switched around for the first 45 minutes, didn't it? Unfortunately, but you often we will, as it transpired, Dominic Ball was had a gash, so he couldn't play, and we often see Caden Jackson in away games, albeit not through the centre. I don't think he was particularly. That's particularly his best position, but so probably was a little bit surprised that it was quite the influx of new players.
And Seb, first start for Richard Keogh did that seem like a sensible move, like a bit of experience? It was going to be a different proposition going to Morecambe, wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess with the comments of the keeper beforehand, was it Thursday? He gave the interview and said, "We need to make it horrible. I know what I need to do." You're kind of thinking, is it a game to bring that bit of nous and that bit of experience that Keogh brings into it? I was surprised to see 5 changes. To be honest, I thought we might see 2 or 3 after Tuesday night. I had a feeling Edwards might come in and start, given how well he did, and I thought it might be a good opportunity to rest one of the 10s, either Chaplin or Harness. I thought it might be Chaplin after a couple of quiet games, but Keogh brings that nous, that experience, that organisation that you want when you're going to these kind of horrible northern cold away days. And yeah, like Craig said, I was surprised it was so many changes, and I guess that impacted the first half because we just didn't get going at all.
No, yeah, we'll get into that. So I'll just quickly run through the team for those listening if they're unaware. We had Walton in goal, Edmondson, Keogh, and Donacien with a back three. Edwards and Davis in the marauding wing back positions. Evans was back in midfield with Morsey, and it was John Jules on the left, Chaplin on the right, and Jackson through the middle. Seb.
It was at the start. Yeah, that's how they were right up until the goal. We'll talk through the game in a minute, but that's certainly that diagram is how it was from the off.
Cool. And I'll just run through that Morecambe team. Ripley seemed to have plenty to say for himself. Craig, he was in nets. It would have been interesting if he didn't start after that, wouldn't it? They matched us up formation wise, didn't they? Well, a more straightforward 3-5-2, but they matched up with three at the back.
Yeah, I think very often the wing backs there also dropped back in, didn't they? Very often I think they just strung five across the back.
Indeed. Former Ipswich reserve player Dylan Conley was starting in midfield, and Stockton, Seb, was up front. That he hasn't played huge amounts this season, but when you saw his name on the team sheet, were you a little bit worried that he might repeat what he did at Portman Road last season?
I think, yeah, being an Ipswich fan for so long, you always think, don't you, that when there's a player that hasn't scored all season and has barely kind of pulled up any trees after an amazing season last year, you always kind of feel it's inevitable he'll open his account for the year against us. So when I saw that he was starting, I did kind of get a little bit worried and think it's inevitable he's going to come out and score and get his season up and running, because obviously he played pretty well in that 2-2 draw at Portman Road with both goals, coming off an amazing season last year. So it was a little bit concerning when I saw his name on the team sheet.
He looked quite good as well. He made himself a bit of a handful, didn't he? Because he hasn't really been playing many games. You know, he's put himself around. He got himself a couple of chances, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Very little service. He had to kind of create his own opportunities. But he's experienced. He's physical. He likes to leave one on a couple of times on players and stuff. So he had a good chance in the second half that we'll come on to. But when you've got a striker of that kind of that caliber, it's natural, I think, to feel a bit of nerves.
Absolutely, and it looked like we were struggling from some nerves in that first half. Seb, it's a bit of a horror show, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. We just didn't get going from minute one. Everything that we do so well, that we've seen so much throughout the season, moving the ball quickly, people knowing their positions. It was all very much up in the air. I think, did you put a message in the Telegram, Craig, group saying about how the grass seemed long, and it was really starting to affect our passing game. The passing was so wayward in the first half. We improved a bit towards half time, but for the first kind of 20-25 minutes or so, we weren't at the races at all. The ref let a few challenges go. There was a really nasty challenge right in front of the dugouts. Then number 8 took out Chaplin, and I don't think I've seen McKenna as animated. I've not seen it back. It looked like a red at the game. I haven't seen it back, so I don't know what the severity of it was. But the referee was letting a few things go, and we just didn't get going at all. It wasn't working with Jackson in that lone role. We've spoken on here before how he struggles to hold the ball up. He's fine through the middle when he's one of a two, but his best work this season, as we know, has kind of come out wide, hasn't it? It's when he's been out wide targeting a player with his pace. So we just simply didn't get going, weren't doing the things that we do really, really well throughout this season, and it was probably the worst performance of the season, that first half, I'd say.
Capped off by a pretty bad goal to concede as well, Seb.
Yeah, I mean, it's an error, isn't it? So the Keogh plays a ball, I think it's Keogh plays a ball back to Walt when it's kind of a little bit under hit / the grass making the pass kind of look under hit. Walton comes out and kicks it straight to their player Connolly. He makes a little run. I think it's Morsey that trips him and just takes a tactical foul. And then it's McKenna came out afterwards, didn't he, saying it was a kind of, if they tried to do it 100 times, they'd probably mess it up 99 times out of 100. It's a ball dinked forward, kind of the player gets a flick over the heads of our defence, and there's a guy right there just to slam the ball home. We thought he might get a lucky flag, we might get an offside, but to be fair, at that stage, they probably deserved it because they were pressing us quite well. They were playing better than we were. We hadn't really created anything up until that point. We were unlucky with a penalty that John Jules perhaps could have claimed. He was kind of bundled over and body checked as he worked his way into the box. I thought that was probably a penalty. As Adam says there, I thought he was body checked. I thought that was a penalty. But aside from that, we very rarely got into the box, and it was a well worked free kick. And then you're thinking, right, they've only scored 2 goals at home all season. The crowd were then up with them. We couldn't settle at all. Ripley was taking 10, 15 seconds per goal kick. Every time there was an offside, he was throwing the ball further forward and having to be sent back by the linesman and the refs. So all the tricks were starting to come out. And I think it was the first time this season that I've probably felt a little bit worried. And normally, like with the Cambridge game in the week, you kind of feel calm even at 70 minutes if you haven't scored so far this year. But it was a very, very different performance. And there were a few kind of nervousness on the terraces at halftime.
Indeed. Were you nervous over in Amsterdam, Craig? I'm amazed you had a good view of the length of the grass over there.
Yes, exactly that. It was a good day for grass yesterday over in Amsterdam. But no, all jokes aside, I think it did affect us, that the grass. Verdant, I said I'd say the word verdant. It was ridiculously green. It just seemed ridiculously lush, and you having to really put your foot behind the ball to get it any distance. It was sort of, harking back to John Beck at Cambridge, grass along in the corners.
In the corners,
so, yeah, exactly. It was getting to that stage. So I think that did affect us. As Seb says, they were pushed up pretty high and in our face for the first half, certainly. But then, by the same token, as Seb says again, that penalty, it's the old too cliche. It's seen him given and anywhere else on the pitch, isn't it? He just bumped into the back of him, pushes him over, and if it's on the halfway line, it's a foul. But for whatever reason, well, we know the reason they don't get given, because the refs aren't particularly great. But that evened itself out, I suppose, the second half.
It did look like, well, for me, it sounded like we reacted pretty well to going behind, though. Evans hit the post, didn't he? And it sounded like we reacted fairly well to conceding. And you were probably thinking going into half time, yeah, I'm sure, Seb, we were deep down all probably fearing the worst and thinking, oh, maybe we might only get a point out of this game. We might even lose it. But with the bench that we've got, I feel slightly more confident than I would have done last season.
Yeah, I mean, he made a change almost as soon as that goal goes in. McKenna makes a change, so Edwards was getting absolutely no joy down our right against their kind of left fullback, left centre back. So he straight away went over to the left-hand side. Jackson came over to the right, and John Jules went through the middle. And we did start to look brighter. Like you said, we had the effort where Evans shoots through a crowd and hits the post, and it comes quickly to Jackson, who just blazes the bar over the top, blazes the ball over the top of the bar. And then Chaplin as well, from about 20 yards or so out, has a shot off target. So we kind of started to get a bit more into our rhythm following that tactical reshuffle. And that kind of laid the groundwork for what was to come in the second half, because Edwards started to get more involved and get much, much more joy down our left-hand side.
What's quite interesting there, Seb, is, should it, I'm not hanging McKenna out to dry here, should it need a tactical reshuffle? It's nothing new. We know that Edwards is better on the left than he is on the right. We know that Jackson's better out wide than he is through the middle. These aren't changes that we might not have foreseen that would needed to have been made, are they?
No, I agree. I mean, when I saw the lineup before the game kicked off, I assumed Jackson would be in one of the two wider attacking midfield positions, and John Jules would be through the middle like it was at Hillsborough. For me, Jackson, he brings so much with his pace, but I don't think he can kind of lead the line. And those two kind of players, I guess you want to give Edwards a chance, given how he performed on Tuesday night. And obviously he came on down the left, didn't he, and got the assist for Wes Burns against Pompey. So he does his best work from the left, as we know. So they were two kind of surprises. And well, it's not for me to, like you say, hang McKenna out to dry. I guess he made the change straight away, and it laid the groundwork for a really, really good second half.
He was just making it interesting, Craig. And for balance, Lee Bayliss says, I think Morecambe deserve credit for the way they harried us all in the first half. And yeah, by all accounts, it sounded like Morecambe were having an absolute stormer in the first half.
They pressed really well all over the pitch. Yeah, it has to be said. They were in our faces, making it kind of nasty and horrible. Some physical challenges were flying in. Keeper taking his time over goal kicks and free kicks and stuff. And it was, yeah, they did exactly what I guess we should have expected them to do based on the comments pre-match.
I think that, to be fair, sorry, Mikey. You say about that tackle. I think that was a nasty tackle on Chapman. Farnay, wasn't it? The guy.
The number 8, yeah.
It wasn't his first tackle either. It's like his second or third tackle, and they were getting progressively worse as he went on. I think he did well to stay on the pitch, to be fair.
It looked a red to me at the time. We all thought it was a red, and like I say, McKenna was really, really animated. So I've not seen it back on any kind of feed or any kind of highlight, so I don't know. But at the time, it certainly looked like a red card. It was a really nasty challenge.
Excellent. I'm always slightly distracted by some of the comments coming up. I'm trying to work out where this one has come from Eric Claxton. I was thinking of going, but ended up getting some jam from Tiptree. Good driving range there as well. Is that a gag, or did you actually get some Tiptree jam instead of going to the game, Eric? You'll have to let me know. Or is that a way of saying you got stuck in traffic and couldn't make it? I don't know.
There's golf in there though, Mikey, just for you.
Yeah, there was golf in there. Yeah, that's probably what drew my eye to it, wasn't it? If I'm honest to myself. Gary Lovell says we seem to improve more when Edwards moved size. I think, yeah, sounded like we all saw that one. But yeah, moving into the second half, no changes. Probably a little bit of a surprise, wasn't it, Craig? Although we did come out second half and start, there was definitely a reaction, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. To be fair, they did come out all guns blazing second half. Edwards, especially, I thought was really good on the left there, cutting in on his right foot. But yeah, I was, just by virtue of that being such a poor first half, and as Seb says, for those having to make changes, having gone behind, it seemed to my eyes that we were definitely going to make a change, and Jackson might be Jackson for Ladapo seemed the obvious one for me, but no, stuck with it, and as you say, Mikey, it didn't seem to matter too much. Because I say they did start the second half really, really well, certainly with some purpose.
Indeed, yeah. And you mentioned Edwards running down the left and cutting in on his right. He almost scored an absolute beauty, didn't he? Where he cut in, and really nice curling shot, wasn't it? Some real finesse on that. So really unlucky, came off the inside of the post, didn't it?
He does everything right, doesn't he? Lovely effort. Gets on his right foot, opens himself up, bends the ball in lovely, and he's so unlucky. And we absolutely dominated the two performances either side of halftime were chalk and cheese. This was the Ipswich that we know. You had Morsey making driving runs. We kind of got our passing game into a bit of a groove. Chaplin had a bit of joy by pulling out wide on our right a few times and swinging in deep crosses with his left foot, and it was just such a turnaround. When you're at football and you start chanting we're going to score in a minute, and you can feel things are starting to change, and it was no surprise at all as the half went on how much of the ball we had and how much we started to dominate.
Absolutely, Seb. And yeah, Michael Warner saw it the same as you. Morsey got on the ball and the game changed and we took control. Adam Flatt said Morsey took the game by the scruff for the next second half, was the driving force. That's definitely how it sounded to me. I was listening to the I Follow Ipswich with Paul Mason from the 90s, Craig. He was sort of in between your favourite eras, wasn't he?
Yeah. So I think he was sort of right slap bang in the middle of the 90s, wasn't he, Paul Mason? But no, certainly my favourite era of my life. But he was, and he didn't look any different, did he? When there was a clip of him on ITFC. He looked exactly the same as he did when he was cutting in and slamming it in the top corner against Man U.
Absolutely, and yeah, Chaplin had a wicked cross headed onto the crossbar by a Morecambe defender a few minutes later. I think someone in the comments said that you have to tip your hat to the goalpost at Morecambe, and I think there were some suggestions on the Telegram group as well that it might have been from you, Craig, that the further north you get, the wider the post and crossbar are.
But at least they're the right size, unlike they were at Wigan. Apparently, weren't they 2 inches taller at Wigan?
They really. But that equaliser did finally come on 54 minutes, didn't it, Seb?
Yeah, so the one where the guy heads, I think it's Love, heads off his own crossbar. It was a deep cross by Chaplin, and he did the same thing that they kind of whip behind for a corner, and then Leif Davis, left-footed, swings the ball in. It falls to Edmondson, who just side foots home really, really nicely. It was quite hard to see. We're at the other end of the ground, so that on the terrace, and the sun was very low yesterday. So we all thought Keogh had scored at first, given the way he was celebrating and running back towards the fans. But then it becomes clear it's Edmondson, and most of the team, I think I remember Evans, Morsey, Keogh, Edmondson are all giving it to the terrace. We start going crazy, and we just kind of feel like, okay, here we go. Now it's now going to be a case of how many are we going to win by. It was a lovely goal. First goal, I think, from a central defender in the league, I think, so far this season. So another kind of box ticked in the things that are feeling different this year, and it got us back into the game. And it was crucial that we scored whilst we had that kind of momentum behind us, because from half time onwards we were just battering them wave after wave, and they couldn't cope with it.
It looks like he's refound his mojo, doesn't it, Edmondson?
Very much so.
He had a very good week.
Yeah, definitely. I thought he was decent at Hillsborough. Got a bit lucky, obviously, with the assist. He had the kind of the mishap, the brain fart moment at Plymouth, which led to their winning goal. But then I thought, against Pompey, against Cambridge, I thought he was absolutely excellent. And he was really, really good again yesterday as well. He's got a different partner alongside him in Keogh, who's talking him through a few things. But he was so strong. He was kind of dealing with Stockton really well in the air, and I think he's definitely back to his kind of Christmas time best that we saw him last year before the injury. He's looking really, really good at the moment.
Excellent. Michael Warner just asked, was it a good corner for the goal or a really badly taken one, Craig? Doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah, really. Let's just say it was worked. He meant to scuff it to the near post.
Absolutely. And Paul Westlake said Edmondson was classed against Cambridge. Best performance this season. Yeah, probably this performance at Morecambe wasn't too far behind it. 3 minutes after we go 1-0 up, we have our first penalty. We could have had one in the first half. We do get one early in the second half. And it was Edwards twisting and turning again, causing problems, wasn't it, Craig?
Yeah. As I say, he started really well that second half, and there seemed to be a concerted effort to get the ball to him, just to let him run at the players, which he's more than happy to do. As you said, Mike, he had that lovely jink inside and curl onto the far post, and this time he actually got into the box, and I think it was Rawson that brings him down. But yeah, there was no complaint, just pretty much textbook pen, wasn't it? Not that we get many of those, do we? Crikey, outrageous.
We don't. But the way the penalty was taken, Seb, probably surprised all of us, didn't it? It wasn't a textbook penalty.
It wasn't, no, and given how good Chaplin is, and we saw that free kick against Barnsley, he likes to get whip and pace on his finishes, and yeah, it was just poor. I mean, he didn't have the best of first halves. No one did, to be fair, but he certainly didn't have the best of first halves. He was struggling to make things happen. His passing game was off, and obviously you've heard in the build up to the game, Ripley giving it the big one, and you kind of think, typical, the Goldie that's been giving it the given all game against the Terrace. We've been having to and fro's with him, gets down and saves it. There wasn't enough pace on it to get it into the corner, was there? It was a pretty poor penalty. It seemed to take a little while for him to take it as well. Some of their players, I think, were kind of encroaching a little bit, and the ref had to walk all the way along the D and kind of shoo two or three of them back out of it again. So yeah, I wasn't that overly concerned, because like I say, we were that dominant. I kind of thought, well, we'll at least get one or two more chances throughout the game and hopefully take them. And it just kind of summed up his day, unfortunately. But what was nice is as soon as he's missed it, I think Danasian and Morsey are straight over to him, slapping him and saying, come on, slapping him in a good way, saying, come on, obviously, keep your head up. And that was great to see from a kind of a team point of view as well.
Yeah, excellent. And Lee Bayliss has said it for me. 38 games to get one, and then we get two, a bit like buses. Talk us through how Caden Jackson wins that second penalty, Craig.
Yeah, I think this was probably, out of the three, including the John Jules, and this is probably the least, I don't know the word, is least penalty-like of all three, really. But I think Jackson's just quite clever on this one, isn't it? That the defender Bedo, is it? I think goes to ground, doesn't he? So he maybe diverts his course towards goal, towards his leg, rather than towards the goal, sort of thing, and makes a penalty out of it. But yeah, again, I think you've seen him given, and we'll take this one, to say we weren't given the one in the first half. But that probably gives you the benefit of still having Jackson on the pitch and having Jackson in that channel rather than down the middle potentially with his back to goal, I suppose.
And this penalty was taken with a bit more authority from Lee Evans, wasn't it? So
yeah, I mean, he held onto the ball for a while for the first one, so I thought he might be taking the first one, but Chaplin obviously was the designated taker and he handed the ball over to him. But this time there was no doubts. He picked the ball kind of straight up, popped it down, and then, yeah, decent penalty. The pace, obviously, Ripley goes the right way, but the pace on the ball takes it past him. He gives it big into the fans behind the goal for a little bit, and yeah, we're all starting to go crazy and starting to check local the latest scores elsewhere to see if we're back top of the table yet.
Brilliant. And yeah, it was kind of ironic, really, because we were all probably expecting there to be halftime subs. There wasn't, and then as soon as we go 2-1 up, that's when the subs came along. So the first ones, Jackson and Chaplin going off. Fair to say they didn't have their best games of the season, but still made an impact.
Yeah, made an impact. If Jackson wins the second penalty, and he's much more of a threat, I think, when he's out wide, like Craig just said, when he can, really run at people. There was no space behind their defence all game, so it wasn't one where he could lead the line and look to get in behind. So he contributed, did okay. Chaplin wasn't his best game, and maybe he'll be one that might need a rest in the upcoming games. But when you can bring on the likes of Ladapo and Harness and stuff, it just shows the absolute quality that we've got, doesn't it?
Yeah, so that double sub saw Burns and Harness coming on. There can't be too many better double substitutions than that this season, anywhere in League One. And 10 minutes later, Vincent Young came on for Davis. Davis doesn't seem to be able to get 90 minutes very often.
Strange, isn't it? That
he gets kicked though, doesn't he? So many times.
He does get kicked.
He is targeted by the opposition, I think, in most of the games we've seen.
But it does seem to be every single match he's brought off on about 65, 70 minutes, doesn't it? Whereas it's not, on the other side, it just, whether that will just be the case, whether he's just.
It might be that he's covering the most yards.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, fair point.
And who was the other one that came on? Ladapo came on for John Jules. A good afternoon for John Jules, would you say, Seb, or not?
He did okay. Yeah, I kind of prefer him when he's in the focal point role, like we saw at Hillsborough and like we saw at Shrewsbury. I don't think you get the best of him when he's tucked slightly deeper. Had that penalty in the first half, which should have been given. Showed some neat touches. No real goal threat from him at all. But I think he did his best work when he went through the middle for the chance he got there.
Indeed. Veronica Dodders pointed out that Davis has completed 90 minutes.
I think he's done it once. Yeah, if I remember right, I think putting my nerd hat on from stats, I think it was Shrewsbury. I think I remember he completed the whole 90 minutes. But like Craig says, most of the time he's a 70, 75 minute kind of player, isn't he?
And Dan Connor says lots of the players talk about how much Davis gets up and down the pitch. So yeah, maybe it is the distance covered.
Yeah, he does, and he does it more than Danassian does on the other side, doesn't he? Because when Burns does it or Jackson does it, they're already 2/3 of the way up the pitch when they start. That's where their starting position. Whereas Davis's starting position is level with the back four, isn't it?
Yeah, and Norman says my sense is McKenna is protecting Davis. He's still young. Mullet seems to think it was Cambridge. I mean, Mullet's a teacher, so who are we to disagree? Mullet's
wearing the nerd hat then.
Mullet's wearing the nerd hat with his go-go gadget jacket.
As well as that ridiculous flat cap. Yeah, that's what I suppose. And it was Davis's first club, wasn't it? Morecambe, they were saying? That's where he started.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought he come straight from Newcastle. That's where he started.
Leeds.
Leeds. I didn't realize. I didn't realize that's where he started his career.
No, I must say, it escaped my knowledge as well. Until
I haven't got a nerd hat, so I didn't know.
Oh, well, there we go. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've seen Hurdle quite a lot on your Twitter, though, Craig. So there must be a nerd hat somewhere tucked away in that room of yours. No comment. Okay. But yeah, 2-1 was how it finished, Seb. Stockton came quite close to scoring, didn't he? But surely that was a foul.
It was a handball and it was a foul. Yeah, he controls it with his arm and then he shoves Danassian and then stabs it slightly wide. Yeah, I mean,
quite a good effort, though, to be fair, once he sort of made that chance for himself with the foul and the handball.
He did well to fashion it for himself, didn't he? But for me, it was blatant. I mean, we all looked at the linesman straight away and he was tapping his shoulder to suggest that he controlled it there. But I thought it was a blatant handball and a blatant shove. But that was it, really. There was a bit of an aerial bombardment with some long throws and some crosses. But Keogh, who I thought struggled in the first half at times and looked half a yard off it, was pretty immense in that second half. He was clearing everything, organising everybody. He's so clever, he'll shield the ball out, and as soon as he gets any kind of touch, he'll just throw himself to the floor, like Berry used to do. If you remember the playoff kind of season, any touch, he'll go to the floor and win the free kick, and it's that experience and nous that I guess you want. And we did see it out pretty comfortably, to be honest.
I was going to pick up on that free kick he got right in front of you guys, didn't he? Towards the end, last 10 minutes or so, was just textbook, just relieve pressure.
Yeah,
I'll have that. Oh, there was a definite foul there. Ref turns to the ref, gets his free kick. Let's waste another 30 seconds and get the ball 80 yards away from our goal.
Yeah, very much. He's becoming a cult hero because the chants in the second half were all pretty much for him. And like I say, he wasn't at it in the first half, but second half he was really, really good.
And you get the feeling that probably a lot of that is to do with the fact that he started his career at Ipswich. I think the fans quite like that as a story, don't they?
It's nice, isn't it? Yeah, it's great. And he's done that. I don't know if you've seen the Sunday Stroll thing the club released at some point last week. That was good as well. I always forget he's from Essex. It's weird when you hear him talking. I always completely forget that he's like an Essex boy. So that was a decent insight as well. And yeah, it's nice. It's come full circle. And Obviously, when he signed, some of us maybe thought he was there for his experience in the dressing room, but he's contributing on the pitch and played really well in that second half.
Still got plenty to offer, seemingly. And you mentioned earlier, Seb, that when we went 2-1 up, attention started to turn to the results elsewhere, and there were some pretty interesting ones, wasn't there?
Yeah, some of them really went for us, weren't they? I mean, I think on the pre-match show, Dave and Rich were saying it could be a weekend where, the top 4 or 5 all win because all the fixtures looked pretty favourable.
Yeah, Dave said that, but Rich, to his credit, did say potential banana skins.
Yeah, and there were some. I mean, Barnsley were one of the form teams going into that game against Exeter, and what a lovely story that is for Stansfield.
Yeah, a lovely story. Any others jumping out from the page there, Craig, for you?
Just Sheffield Wednesday, obviously. Barry Bannon sticking in the top corner from 25 yards and another back heel assist. The guy's pretty incessant, isn't he? But they could end up losing next week. We said last week they've, I think, lost 3 of the first 12 matches before yesterday. Milton Keynes don't seem to be able to catch a break, do they, either at the moment? They're going to Liam Manning's a deal would hold on to his job, let alone get a job further up the pyramid. But yeah, no, so you watched all the highlights. The interesting one was that Accrington and Plymouth. Obviously, it was pretty straightforward victory for Plymouth at the end, but that sending off was an interesting one, wasn't it? 2 red cards for the same tackle. I don't know if you saw that.
Both went flying in, didn't they? I think Andy Holt's come out, hasn't he, on Twitter and said a few things, unsurprisingly. But yeah, they both just went absolutely flying in, didn't they? It was a throwback challenge that you expect to see on Match of the Day revisited, wasn't it?
Yeah, neither man went for the ball. They both got. I don't know which way the ref gave the free kick.
Yeah, do you just do a drop ball in that incident? So I'll just run through all of these results. So I think Seb mentioned Exeter won 2-0 at Barnsley. Bristol Rovers 2-1 at home to Cambridge. Port Vale won away at Derby. I think Ellis Harrison scored again, didn't he?
Yes.
He did, yeah. He won. Was it a penalty? He's in a bit of form, isn't he? And did you see the red card for James Collins as well? A WWE forearm smash on the ground. So he's out of the Sky game in a couple of weeks' time now. Thankfully.
He did that, didn't he? Then he all of a sudden realised, balls. And then he sort of flung himself to the floor backwards as if he'd been hit as well, didn't he? Cheeky sod.
And Bolton losing away at Forest Green. That sort of came from nowhere, didn't it?
And Connor Wickham scored again, didn't he? Is it Connor 5th goal of the season so far? He's on a short-term deal till January. 5 goals, I think, for the season. So happy for him.
Joe Fairs is convinced we're going to sign him in January, isn't he?
Yeah.
Lincoln 0, Charlton 0. Charlton's still not up and running at all. They might have a new manager by the time we go there in a few weeks' time. Wickham got a good, decent result for them away at Oxford. They need to start picking up results fast if they're going to trouble the playoffs again, though, Wickham. Posh held at home by Burton. They seem so inconsistent at the moment, Peterborough. It's a surprise. Plymouth, as you mentioned, easy winners at home to Accrington. Pompey held by Fleetwood at home. And Sheffield Wednesday 3-0 against Cheltenham. And Shrewsbury Town 2-1 winners against Milton Keynes. And that leaves the table looking like this. And it's still pretty reading, isn't it? Plymouth top, 13 games, 31 points. We're second with a much superior goal difference. We can point to that. 13 games, 30 points. We're in dreamland, aren't we, boys?
Very much so.
Chris Rand pointed out that was it Boxing Day last year was when we got to the equivalent number of points. 30 points.
Wow.
So yeah,
and that lovely little gap now to third as well. And even if Pompey win those 2 games in hand, they still can't catch us. So yeah, it's all looking really, really rosy. I noticed the Pompey game, an assist from Toto Enciala. He won a corner and headed it back across goal for Fleetwood to equalise. So still helping us out, bless him.
And I think Joe Pigott came on for Portsmouth, didn't he? I think.
Pigott against Enciala. Love to see it. Let's dip back into these comments, shall we? Graham says flattering 3-0 for Plymouth. Very difficult game.
I'd have a flattering 3-0 every week.
Yeah. Well, we had one against Cambridge, really, didn't we? Exeter might be the dark horse, this is Eric Clacton.
Doing well, aren't they? Yeah. I mean, obviously they've lost the manager now, so that'll be a big big test for whoever. They haven't appointed anybody new, have they yet? I might have missed that if they have, but I guess they'll be looking to carry on that really, really good form. And yeah, they've certainly started off really, really well so far this year.
Dan Connors says, Harper, player of the year, Craig, getting some plaudits at Exeter.
As he should. Yeah. Oh, good. That's good to hear. I'm not entirely sure he's going to have anything. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get a chance to win Player of the Year with us going forwards. But yeah, no, I'm glad to hear that.
And I know we kind of touched upon it, but would you take Wickham in January?
If he keeps scoring, I mean, if he's on 5 already, if we get to the transfer window and he's on 10, 12, then as a short-term option, maybe. But I'm not sure he'll fit in. He's not really a presser, is he? I don't think he's going to be able to fit in with McKenzie. He'd be good with his back to goal, I guess. But probably not for me.
Depends if we get to the last knockings of the transfer window and all we've got is Burton's striker or Forest Green Rovers striker. We got Burton's striker at the end of this transfer window, didn't we? I'd imagine they'll be doing everything they can to acquire their number one targets come January. I can't imagine we won't get a striker in January, regardless.
Lee Bella says not a chance. Charlie D, 100% no. Norman says our goal difference is like an extra half a point. That's true. Yeah. Charlie D, how is Derby getting on? I think he's had an injury, but he's not really playing at Burton.
No, he was injured, wasn't he? And he's not really featured. And they've obviously got a new change of manager now, so that might be one maybe where we look to recall him in January and send him out elsewhere to get some minutes. Send him back to Salford for the second half of the season again, maybe.
Yeah, could happen. Paul Westlake, Elmer's probably the best of the loans at the moment, doing well. Pleased for him. Yeah, it's great to see him doing well at Leyton Orient.
I think he got injured yesterday, though, didn't he? He went off at half time.
Went off with a hamstring, didn't he? Apparently, so hopefully it's not a bad one. Hopefully,
no, he's been doing well. They've got a hell of a midfield, haven't they? I was talking to Mate the other day. They've got Darren Pratley, Elmiz, and George Moncur, haven't they? He used to play for Col U. That's their central midfield three. So that's half decent in League Two, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very, very deep. I mean, it's unusual for a League Two midfield to be 3 players that I've heard of.
Heard of, yeah.
It's unusual in League One. Yeah. Apparently, Burton have signed Mariappa too. It feels like he's been linked with us a number of times in previous regime. Right, let's do a couple of plugs, shall we? So there's no game this week, which is unusual, isn't it? No midweek league game, no Pizza Cup game. I think the next game is not until next Saturday against Lincoln, but I think we'll be back with a live Q&A on Wednesday at 8 o'clock. Please join us for that. And Seb, presumably you'll be back alongside Rich for the previous show ahead of that Lincoln game.
Yeah, it'll be a pre-record this week because I'm going back for Lincoln, so I presume we'll record it on Thursday night and as usual release it Friday morning.
Excellent. And I don't know if you listened to the pre-match show with Dave Diamond, but I don't think he really covered himself in glory again with the predictions.
No, yeah, I listened to it, and yeah, having seen the results come in, I mean, that feature's probably dead now, isn't it? It's probably time we put it to bed and come up with something different. I think that'll be 6-1, I think, or 7-1 in rounds. I don't know. I'm so far behind. I'm never going to claw it back.
Are we going to have to give some respect to Rich's predictions?
No, God, no, never.
No? Okay,
just lucky. Like, yeah, I was always playing catch up from week 1 when I was off, and Dave had a bit of a nightmare. So I'll use that to defend my honour. Not the fact that I'm just totally crap at it.
Is it a host versus? I don't watch the YouTube clip. I always only listen to it on the pod, so I don't get to see the table. But has Rich put it host or? And
it's whatever he wants. There's a host one. There's a overall points one. He just
So I don't mind coming in and like being host and completely blowing up the prediction. Well, take one for the team.
That's what I wanted. Ben hosted once, and I was saying, right, brilliant, you can do 7-all draws and all that kind of stuff. And he had a joke one. He said he predicted somebody 4-0, and so that's my token one. And it actually happened. So he got like an extra 2 points for that one. So yeah, brilliant.
Fair play. Are you that confident, Craig, that you'll just go in and beat Rich up at any game?
No, I'll get all the predictions wrong, and therefore let's say,
I see. You're going to host it and get them wrong. Throw it. Okay.
If the host,
crushy, I'm not confident enough to know the hell I'm talking about. No.
And then talking of hosting duties, midweek Q&A, radiator keys at the ready.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to be around this midweek, unfortunately, but yes, by all means, everyone is getting colder and colder. I've actually bought myself one of those lint still lint scraper things. You got any carpet? You see, I've been spending all day scraping the carpets, getting the cat fluff off. So
you live a life, don't you, Craig?
Unfortunately that's a rather large glimpse into my my world. Yeah, that's as exciting as it gets.
Paul Westlake says, "Good luck predicting the changes for Saturday, Seb. Could be half a dozen again, or has anyone done enough to keep their place?" Yeah, who do we see? I mean, with a whole week, there's probably. I mean, I suppose there will be changes due to the fact that we'd made so many changes for the Morecambe game. Do you expect it to be similar to the team that started against Cambridge, or?
I think so. I mean, there's kind of forming, isn't there, an away team and a home team a little bit in certain positions now. We know the likes of John Jules and Jackson tend to start away from home. I'm not sure if Keogh was really, really good second half yesterday, but I'm assuming at home when you're going to have more of the ball, you're going to want Wolfenden perhaps to, be that natural bridge between the defence and the midfield. Evans and Morsey, I think, will start, and I'd expect the likes of Burns to come back in. I'd like to see Edwards start again, if I'm honest. He did really, really well. Got the assist against Portsmouth, got the 2 goals against Cambridge, and played really well yesterday. So I'd have no issue with him starting again, but probably on the left, not on the right hand side.
Yeah,
there's not many players left looking for that first start, is there? Really? I mean, it feels like Vincent Young hasn't had a crack at the whip for a little while. Could we maybe see him come in on the left, maybe if Davis is injured?
Davis had a week, hasn't he? I suppose that's as you say, Mikey. There's nothing happening this week, is there, in terms of matches? So everyone's going to have a clear run at next weekend, aren't they? So a bit like Seb, I'd give Edwards a go and start him up on the left as he finished. Well, not finished game, but as he started in the second half yesterday. Burns on the right, and pick your choice of one who we have in the middle behind Ladapo, I would imagine.
Maybe give Chaplin a rest. He's looked a little bit off it the last couple of games, hasn't he? You've got a big game against Derby a week later on Sky, so maybe give Chaplin a few minutes off the bench towards the end if it's all going well, and give him a bit of a break before some big games.
Norman says Wolfie's been carrying a slight strain for the last few weeks. Dan Connors asked, do we rest Morsey with Derby in mind and him on 4 yellows? I don't know if we can really afford to do that, especially if ball isn't 100%.
Yeah, he's so crucial. I mean, yesterday we improved when he started driving with the ball. He's just so important to us. I guess maybe if you can get yourself in a commanding position, take him off to protect him a little bit. I thought he was going to get booked yesterday when he gave the free kick they scored from, when he gave it away for the trip. I thought that was going to be his booking. He would then sit out Lincoln and be fine for Derby, but the ref let a fair few things go and didn't book him. So I don't think he'll rest him from the start. But maybe if we get in a commanding position and ball's back, you could look to maybe sub him off in the second half to protect him.
Yeah, that's the issue you've got, isn't it? If the ball's not fit, then who are you going to have to replace? I think you just got to take each game as it comes, and you can't really start working on eventualities of what might happen. Might not get booked, so therefore he plays both games, doesn't
he? Indeed. And Veronica Dodd says, bit of chat yesterday about Evans possibly going to the World Cup.
Have you got tickets?
I'd be surprised. I mean, the Welsh squad is pretty settled, isn't it? If you haven't featured at this stage, you're not going to come out the blue. I know it's a bigger squad than normal 26-man squad, and he's been playing really, really well. We all thought it would be Ball and Morsey so far this season, but he's been absolutely superb since the start of the campaign. But I think I can't see him getting in now. Surely not, given he's not featured at all for them.
He's ideally suited, isn't he, to the way that we play? But I can't imagine for 1 second he's going to get as much time in the centre midfield of an international match as he does strolling around occasionally in League One, does he? So I think we'll be safe. Unfortunately for him.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame for him. Do you know what our last home game is before the World Cup, Craig?
I don't know when the World Cup starts, mate.
It starts in
ours is the 25th November, isn't it? It's the USA game, but I can't. Is that the first one?
Okay, I thought it was slightly.
I know when the
segue into the live.
I know when
show.
the Cheltenham match is, mate. If that's any help.
Seb, tell us when the Cheltenham match is and what else is going on.
I think it's the last game before the World Cup. I'm not entirely sure, but I could probably check that. Yeah, it's Saturday, the 12th of November, and obviously we've got Blue Monday live straight away. Well, not straight away, sorry, at 8 o'clock in the Sir Bobby Robson suite after hopefully a superb win that cements our place at the top of the league.
Are there any tickets left, Craig?
I don't know if there are, actually. I think if you need them, you need to go onto either some sort of ticket tout website. They're going very, very like gold dust now. So
they're like the Sheffield Wednesday programmes, aren't they?
Yeah, that and Charlton tickets.
Charlton away, yeah.
Charlton away tickets, yeah. Now you might be lucky. So yeah, get on bluemondayitfc.co.uk. There's a link straight to the ticket link. Yes, good to hopefully see everyone there. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, that'll be a good night, and you'll be doing your best Ken Bruce impression, no doubt, at times, Craig.
No, I can't do impressions, mate. I'll leave that to the professionals. I think Rich is going to do, as I understood it, Rich is going to do one from each of the managers a lot, throughout the years. So look out for that. He's going to do like a medley.
That is something to look forward to.
Medley.
Blimey, the price of tickets really is going to skyrocket now, isn't it? Michael Warner, another World Cup related one. Burgess should go with Australia. The Australia defenders are so poor, but I think at this stage, if they haven't really been involved in qualifying and friendlies, they're not going to get called up now.
And Paul Burgess needs to
face is being rebuilt.
He needs to, the swelling needs to go down and needs to get back to, league football. If you haven't featured by now, you're not going to get in, are you?
No, I don't think so. Good question here from Norman Greenwald. So, how many matches have we played now? Is it 12?
Yeah,
12 matches, 30 points, isn't it? Who's your player of the season so far? He's gone for Evans, who's scored 3 goals now.
That's a really good question, actually, Norman. I think he's one of those. He's probably been second in Player of the Month awards for each of the months that we've had so far, whereas people have sort of dipped up and above him and below him, sort of thing. So very possibly consistently, he very well probably has been, because Harness has won Player of the Month, but has been a bit hot and cold, as Seb says about Chaplin.
Yeah,
he's won
same.
Player of the Month, but been a bit hot and cold, hasn't he? Yeah, that's right. So they're probably the Mr. Consistent. Leif Davis started off a little bit slowly, but has obviously got better and better as the weeks have gone on. So yeah, probably from the get-go through to now, it probably has been Lee Evans. Fair play, which is, as you say, surprised everyone, because everyone thought he'd be fighting for his place.
Yeah, I think we all did, didn't we? I think a lot of us were expecting Ball to start. Graham Burns says 13 matches played. Okay. Paul Westlake says Davis or Evans. Yeah, Davis has really come on strong, hasn't he, the last few weeks, Seb?
Yeah, he's looking excellent, isn't he? He had the dodgy start against Bolton where he gives the penalty away, but the poor guy was in Australia 40 hours before that and stuff. So he's really, really growing into it and looking really great each game. He bombs up and down that flank. I think, is he now joint with Donacien on assists? I think they got 3 each after the corner taken yesterday. So he's really contributing vitally, and he's a great little player.
He is indeed. A few shouts for Christian Walton. Mullet goes for him. Chris Rand, Veronica Dodd, Walton MVP. I think Veronica's been watching the NFL with that type of language.
Yeah, but has Walton, fair play, everyone's got an opinion, but has Walton, he's just there. We just know that he's there if required, if you know what I mean. Has he won games for us?
His distribution has just been so good, though, hasn't it? Yeah. He just looks so good for League One.
Oh God, yeah. You've got entirely 100% confidence that he's gonna do the job. But in terms of 9 out of 10 performances, he's just there, isn't he? He hasn't needed many 9 out of 10 performances, has he? Thankfully.
Veronica says, "What's NFL?" Walton has created such confidence. Yeah, I suppose that's like you say, that's such a big part of it, isn't it? We look like we have real leaders now all over the pitch, Seb.
Very much so, and we've seen it in a fair few games. When you're under the cosh a little bit, you just want when you're facing a corner or a free kick. Walton has this knack, doesn't he, just coming out, claiming the ball effortlessly, dropping down and relieving all the pressure off the side. So yeah, he's absolutely crucial, and he's breeding the confidence that the 3 in front of him can move forward up the pitch with such a solid base behind them. And like you said, his distribution in the summer, they must have been working on it, because it was never his strong suit. I didn't think last season, but this year he's gone up a whole new level. He's had a couple of ricks, obviously away at Hillsbury. He gave the ball away to Bannon with that shot that bounced just over, and the free kick yesterday came from a misplaced pass, but 9 times out of 10 he can ping the ball around lovely out to either flank. And what a great keeper. Touch wood, we've probably solved that position now for the next 5-6 years, all being well, haven't we?
Definitely looks that way. And do you expect us to just stay with this formation pretty much the whole way through the season now, Craig?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's pretty much morphed into a back 4 now, hasn't it? With Donacien being quite a narrow right back, and as we were saying earlier about Davis being your nailed on left back rather than a left wing back. Two in front of those in the middle, and it's sort of 4-2-3-1 now, really, isn't it? If you think you've got Edwards currently playing, Burns, when he does play, he doesn't play as a right wing back, does he? He plays as a right winger, so it's looking more and more, instead of there being two number 10s, it's sort of nothing symmetrical, is it, in the team? It's all very, going on Football Manager lines, all very asymmetrical, isn't it? It's nothing's quite there, but yeah, I think they'll just keep it. It's not, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
No, and what would you imagine they'll be working on in the training ground this week? So just more of the same, or did you see any sort of areas that troubled you a little bit at Morecambe?
No, more of the same, I would think. Like I say, it was the pitch, I think, that meant we couldn't get our natural kind of game going. We've done so well, like Craig said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. We've had 3 completely different kind of wins this week, haven't we? We had Pompey was the big game against one of the contenders, and they were free scoring, and we completely nullified them and did really well. They scored 2 penalties, obviously, but apart from that, didn't really threaten elsewhere. Then on Tuesday night, we've beaten a side that was trying to frustrate us with a low block, and kind of we had to be patient and break them down. And then yesterday, we've kind of been awful at halftime, and then showed some resilience after the break, and kind of one of those horrible gritty away days that traditionally we've fallen down at. So we've got all these different methods of playing in our locker, and I think it'll just be a case of repetition.
I think someone was saying that on the Telegram group was saying that Lincoln, or a friend of a friend said Lincoln are one of the worst teams they've seen so far this season. So we'll see what they can bring to Portman Road on Saturday. But as you say, Rich, as Mikey, what a week it's been. 3 wins, 3, 6, 8 goals, 1 conceded. Just keep it going, keep rolling on. Because other teams aren't they? Plymouth certainly are.
It feels like it's going to be
can't stop as nobody else is.
It feels like it's going to be a high bar again, doesn't it? To get up there, you could be looking at finishing 3rd on 90 points again this season or whatever. So all we can do is I know we said yesterday we were looking at the other scores, see where we were in the league. But if we can just look after ourselves, take one game at a time, the old cliche, take one game at a time, look after and do what we do, and then we should, the way we're playing, end up on the right side of things come May.
I like this from Chris Rand. Let's face it, we're playing 4-2-4 Brazil 70 style. I'm not going to say it, Craig. I'm not going to say it.
Craig will have to answer that one. Yeah.
Bloody hell's bells! Come on.
FPL Tractor, how are the esteemed panel handling ITFC being good? It's weird, right? Yeah, it is a little bit strange. People at work saying, "Oh, another good result for Ipswich," and yeah, I'm like, yeah, it's a bit strange, like having this sort of attention. Normally people are on the wind up about it.
It's just having the confidence that the people in charge of your club, whether it be behind the scenes or on the pitch, they sort of know what they're up to at the moment, and you can sort of trust them to get stuff right. And even if things aren't going right, you sort of trust them to change stuff to make it right again. And I said on the midweek show about the Cambridge game on Tuesday that there was nothing. The crowd weren't of the world. Although I heard it down my neck of the woods in the stadium, the crowd weren't that frustrated. They weren't that impatient. They were just, okay, we're all right. We've got this. And they kept behind the team all the way through. And considering we didn't score to the 70th minute or 72nd minute, where it happened to be, there was no getting on the players' backs because we're going backwards instead of going forwards. There was nothing. It was just, we're going to build it. As Seb was saying yesterday about getting that 1 goal and then feeling that something else is coming. There seemed to be that all the way through, even when it was 0-0. There just seemed to be a group agreement that we're going to be right here. Leave it to the guys. They know what they're up to. It's been a while since we've been able to say that. Absolutely.
Paul Westlake is in complete agreement with you. If we've learned anything from Cambridge and Morecambe, it is to trust Kieran McKenna. 100% agree. And I think it does help the players as well, doesn't it, Seb, that we're not like jumping at them when things aren't going well after 55 minutes.
Yeah, very much so. Remain calm, remain patient. Like I say, at halftime yesterday, there were a few utterings and I was a bit nervous, but, you've got to trust them to do the right thing. And I guess they will use these experiences to look back on. They can now think to themselves, we came back after adversity in both Morecambe and Portsmouth after going, the deflation at Portsmouth with the second penalty. We went straight up at the other end and scored a goal. We broke a team down on Tuesday night. We showed resilience yesterday. They can use those examples to refer back to in future games. And yeah, we have to trust McKenna implicitly because, well, let's be honest, the sample size he's given us of performances and data is absolutely incredible. It's absolutely outstanding, isn't it?
Mm. Old Jude Smith, it's going to be Town's season this year, and that's from someone that's been in the pub all afternoon. That's my mum, if you weren't aware. Any last words from you, Craig, before we go?
No, I don't think so, mate. I think other than get your tickets while they're still available, and
they are still available now, are they?
I've got a box full here. I've just stuck them on eBay. Yeah.
Brilliant. And yeah, Seb, if everyone that's watching on YouTube would give this a like, a thumbs up, that would help us as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it makes a big difference to these algorithms and things that I don't really understand, but Rich always bangs on about them. So if it keeps Rich quiet for a bit longer, everyone give us a thumbs up, please. Absolutely.
And Chris Randers just hit 10 kilometers on the exercise bike. Thanks for making it bearable. Glad we could be of assistance. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday,
if I
everyone.
Have a couple of thousand of those, Chris, that'd be absolutely fantastic. If I can have a few of your meters, that'd be good. Thank you. Sorry, Mikey.
Lovely. All right. Goodbye, everyone. Cheers for watching, and up and down.